One question I had for you, Javen, like Kickstarter related, before we look at it, because I definitely am going to bring it up in a few minutes here so we can start taking a look at it real deep. Do you have a game plan? Like, if you don't fund the campaign, are you prepared to fail? Basically, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, emotionally, yes.
Are you bracing yourself for that? Like,
oh man, this might just flop.
Well, I don't want you to fail, which is why we're all kind of trying to give you our feedback here tonight. But like that is a reality. It's all happened to us at one point or the other, and so like I just definitely, like you are prepared for that reality, right?
Yeah. So I'll tell you right now, kind of what my plan B is. Like if this just like doesn't go as well as I'd hoped, then it's changing the avenue, I guess, because I feel like the story is kind of there.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, maybe I need to try it as like a web comic or something, and try to build up an audience a little bit more slowly, do more social media stuff, maybe that kind of avenue. Or maybe look into if there are some really good indie publishers to try to pitch it to, which I didn't want to do because I just like it's my darling, I guess. And I'm like, I want
to have more. You want to have your full control over it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I want to be able to do what I want,
Yeah.
But
and if you go with an indie publisher, changes are definitely part of that process.
I mean, you won't fail, but if you do fail, at least you'll learn something. So it's not like cut and dry. It's not like cut and dry. You'll go get something out of it.
Yeah,
that's true. Harry's got a good point there. It's like you will learn some stuff from the process. One thing you had mentioned too. One thing so you mentioned social media. How are you with social media? Are you afraid to share links to your own stuff? Are you like
I'm on Instagram. I do some on Facebook. I'm mostly on Instagram.
Okay.
I've done stuff on there off and on. I mean, I haven't given it as much attention as I feel like I should. And so like my following's not super large. And so like to be able to pull people to try to do a crowdfunding project, I think is a little tricky right now. Like if you just look at my numbers. So that's kind of nerve wracking, but I mean, I know sometimes it's a long game and you just got to find different ways to get in front of the right people. So
that's true. Like, and like Tony and Johnny, like, how is your like social media game when it comes to like promoting? Is it like, are you afraid to share links? Are you, like what's the style that you guys use, I guess?
Tony?
Well, I have a lot of video editing skills. So places like TikTok and YouTube, I do really well at. And I get a lot of eyeballs on my books through that way. But yeah, that's really what it is. I hate Twitter. And Instagram is my other place. But doing videos on Instagram as well, because it's
you do the videos.
Yeah. One thing I found effective for my social media too, and you guys can take this as I like to share panels. Like I'll take a nice panel from the book and I'll crop it, just share the panel, and it'll just be like, hey, this is what's happening in the panel, and this is part of such and such book written by me, artwork by this person. You can tag them in that, and then and then link in the bio, link in comments for Kickstarter and stuff like that. Because I find if you share the link with your initial post, it usually doesn't help you, but if you share it as a comment after, that, especially on Facebook, I think that's like a thing. Dr. Mask has some really great advice here as well. Let me bring that up. He said, been coming from someone who has no experience in crowdfunding, but I've looked into it, a lot of it. If you run into issues early, it won't hurt to end it early and regroup. That's not a bad piece of advice.
I've seen people do that.
Yeah.
I know guys that have launched a number of successful campaigns and still had ones fail. They retooled and relaunched later. So that's something to think about, Javen. If you get into it a week or two and it's not looking good, you might want to think about that as well. Something
based upon your goal number, there's a certain kind of pace you want to hit. And there's actually a site called Kick Track. and track is spelled TRAQ. And that site's actually a really great tool to use in the back end just to see if you're matching and meeting that pacing. So you just once you have your campaign page, you put it in there, it analyzes it, and it says this is what you should expect to get based upon everything.
Although that one's a little tricky mental health wise, if you're looking at it while the campaign's live, which I do not recommend, because if you have a really good day, it's like, wow, I'm going to be a millionaire, and then the next day you get one backer, and you're like, this is going to fail beyond believing. So
so it tracks in real time. Yeah.
It's like an emotional roller coaster.
The first few days when the campaigns are successful, it puts a really nice number there because, hey, if you keep up this trend, this is what your number could look like. Yeah. But as all campaigns and people who've launched campaigns know, you've got a really strong beginning, a very dead middle, and then you usually kind of have a little bit of an uptick at the end. So it's that lull where it kind of evens out your average, and that number becomes more realistic. And that's where you can kind of get a better idea as to where you're going to land. You know what I mean? It also helps you encourages you to go, oh no, I'm in this lull. I got to do a little bit more promoting here and there to help push the campaign. Put it in, don't leave any stone unturned. It's like, when I launched my campaign, I was like posting to LinkedIn. I was posting to fucking Vero, hoping Zack Snyder would see it or something, because that's all he uses. I posted Reddit, everywhere, and sure enough, when you look at the analytics, like posts did come in, engagement came in from those weird platforms I never expected it to.
Yeah, LinkedIn is a little snake in the grass too, because like I've shared a couple things there, like promos for like PlasticCityComicCon and my campaign, and depending on how many people you're connected with, it gets a lot of views. Like I don't know if it like helped me gain new backers or anything, but it definitely put a lot more eyes on a link than say if I shared it on like Facebook or something, so
it helps for the job you worked 3 jobs ago, when the guy's like, oh, I remember working with that guy, he's got a comic book now, and he backs it.
Yeah, I guess that could happen too, huh? It's good to think about.
Diana.